Continuing our series on which campaign should you play for Total War Saga Troy, today we'll be covering the newest Danaan characters added to the game in Ajax and Diomedes. If you'd like to watch the coverage on either the full list of Danaans or the Trojans, you can find that linked in the upper right corner and at the end of the video, and my coverage of the Amazonians will be coming out tomorrow. If you've never watched one of these on my channel before, the way I like to do this is by giving you a spoiler-free rundown of each character. I'll boot their campaign up on turn 1, we'll talk about the mechanics of each campaign while also going over, some other unique elements of that playthrough. Then lastly, I'll give you just a rundown, essentially saying, hey, if you decide to start this campaign, expect to play in this type of style. Or if you're interested in using a lot of this specific unit type, then this is going to be the campaign for you, so on and so forth. I'll at least kind of give you like an ending thesis statement for the campaign. But as a reminder, this is not a guide, and while I might give you a few tips here and there, the ultimate goal here is to help you decide which campaign you should play in Total War Saga Troy, especially with the launch of the Mythos DLC later this week. If you end up enjoying this video, please don't forget to like, comment, and/or subscribe, as each one of these helps out to some varying degree. Well, let's get started on this guide to Ajax and Diomedes and whether or not it's the campaign for you. And we'll open up talking about Ajax the Great, the son of legendary King Telamon, was one of the fiercest and most cunning warriors of the Trojan War, second only to Achilles in martial prowess. And it's actually pretty interesting here, he is known as the bulwark of the Achaeans, and he played a very defensive role in the Iliad. And as a result, he is a defender himself. That's the role that he has. So as a result, he can have fighters, he can have defenders, and he can have skirmishers. In addition, he gets two unique faction mechanics, the Path to Greatness and Warrior of Renown, which we'll talk about in just a little second. And then he also gets his unique faction units. The Slingers here, the Ajax's Wall, again a more defensive style unit. Then he also gets the Salamis Marines, which are a really cool hybrid unit of both melee as well as some ranged javelin play that they can do. And lastly, Teucer's Bowman, which is a reference to his brother, which you can actually get as a character in the game. But let's go ahead and jump into the campaign and take a look at some of the mechanics behind Ajax here. Here we are at turn 1 for Ajax, and you can see it's a little bit further north of a starting location than we are used to when it comes to the Danaans. Usually we're starting kind of around here. In fact, Diomedes starts right around here as well, right here in Argos. But with Ajax, we get a playstyle that is very interesting. Unlike a lot of the other rulers, he's very strong and independent on his own, and he can really range north and do a lot of damage really without anyone's help. It's kind of, again, a little indicative of the type of character that he was in the quote-unquote lore of the Trojan War. He was this very solitary type of force, and for the most part, of all of the characters in the Iliad, he's one of the only ones who doesn't really get any interaction or at least assistance from the gods. The only time, I think, is when Poseidon kind of strikes him with his staff to renew his energy. And as thus, you are known as this particularly strong and well-known warrior of renown. And as part of that, you have these two mechanics, Warrior of Renown and then Path to Greatness. And the way that these work is that they are geared off of a special, that's Divine Will, a special currency, quote unquote, called Renown. So the way that this works is, as you do certain things, as you accomplish military feats, as you accomplish diplomacy, certain things of the sort, you have access to this renown tree. And as you can see, it increases over time. And really what it is about here is Ajax is someone who aims to settle things, either for good or bad. Hey, two people are fighting. Well, I'm going to come in, I'm going to mitigate between the two, or mediate between the two, and I'm going to have everyone come to a peace. Or I'm going to avenge the aggressor or avenge the defender and come to their aid. So you have a lot of options. I don't know why I have these clicked. So when you take a look here at the Renown tree, you can see that over time, it's going to increase your diplomatic relations with Danaans. +2 to deal evaluation for all diplomatic agreement except barters as you jump down to growing renown. Going down further into that second portion, that was growing renown 31 to 60. Into 61 to 99, you get more and more of those bonuses all the way down to just a huge stack of it at the very bottom, Ajax the Great. And with that, you have this ability to kind of quell the dissension between two warring factions. You can say, hey, you know, I know that Athena and the Corinthians, they're just going at it. So I'm going to invite them to a little celebration, and I'm going to offer up, let's just say these things. And I can't do it because I don't have enough renown to do it yet, but you offer up prizes. And as you can see here, renown improves your diplomatic standing with Danaan factions and allows you to host a celebration to force peace between warring neighbors. So this allows you to keep maybe Danaans in a better spot than, say, some of the other cultures that surround you. This really gives you a really cool kind of edge to push a frontier northward and keep all the other Danaans that are south of you from fighting each other and destroying each other. So it's a really interesting mechanic that a lot of the, sorry for the double zoom there, that a lot of the other characters don't have, right? They're all about open conquest, but this was the character that defended the Greek camp during the Iliad, and he does the same thing kind of here. He is defending and holding true the Danaan culture of Mycenae here. So it's, well, I guess Mycenae would be over here, but that's neither here nor there. My point still here is that you kind of defend the homeland, and as a result you can expand northward into these regions over here while also keeping it so that all of the Danaans back home don't really tear each other apart and you're left with no allies. It's a pretty cool little mechanic, and you can even use it against non-Danaans, right? You can have two non-Danaan cultures or factions settle peace with your Warriors of Renown ability. But the other thing that Renown does here is it accesses this Path of Greatness. And Path of Greatness is very similar to Diomedes' mechanic, which we'll get into in just a little bit. But the way it works is you have this little, I guess, picture here that gives you an idea of the location of each one of these paragons. These paragons are spread across the map and they have varying levels of strength. So let's go ahead and do this by no, I'll say we'll do Renown Ascending. So the way that this works is I'm going to look at this character right here. He's pretty close to me and I can challenge him. If I challenge him, it's going to cost me 35 food and I need 0 actual renown to do it. But if I look at some of these ones down here at the very bottom, I need to get up to the 25 mark on this in order to do it. So you can't just challenge all over the place. You have to make sure that you're focusing on the ones that you want and need. And if I hover over this icon, it shows me what that actual guy's army looks like before I jump into it and his actual Paragon rank. So what this gets you is a particularly, high level character to recruit right out the gate. So if I were to get this guy on turn 2, I would have a rank 5 character that I could just recruit into my army immediately, which is quite juicy. Even if I go down all the way here to level 15, I can just jump this guy into my army. Once I get the respective amount that I need, I get a really strong archer. So you do get a lot of really cool things with this. In my personal opinion, I find Diomedes' version of this to be a little more, I find it overall better. I'd rather have units rather than heroes, and we'll get into it in just a little bit here. But outside of that, Ajax himself is a powerhouse. He's so strong in combat, even though he's a defender, right? You'd expect a defender not to be as great, but he is quite good. And as you progress down his skills, he has quite a few that are particularly awesome and really stand out here. I mean, he has a lot of bonuses that allow him to make his units overall a lot stronger. And again, he's got Herculean throw, which allows him to throw a gigantic rock, which is always badass. So I find Ajax as a hero to be really cool. I find his mechanics to be a little lackluster by comparison to Diomedes, but as you get into the mid and late portions of the game with Ajax, he has such an amazing diplomatic power hold or stranglehold on everyone that he can really sway things in his favor almost all the time. That's really different than Diomedes, which we'll get into again in a little bit, but you're not going to be fighting as many wars and trying to really shore your borders up with Ajax. You're a little bit more of a singular strong force moving north, south, east, west, whatever direction you want to take without having to really worry about a whole ton. And the nice thing here is too, you start off with the ability to jump into some giant units right here. You can move over here and to get into some Spartoi. So you have a lot of Paragon units too that are located here, here, and here. So you have a lot of nice density right around you to make a very strong little trade empire before you even go to expand northwest, southeast, or what's the other direction? Did I say north, south, east, west? Yeah, I got all 4. Nailed it. But the other little quick thing here for Ajax is his ability to recruit some Homeric heroes in this guy right here, his half-brother of Ajax, Teucer. So he can summon this guy up, and he gets a pretty cool little archer trickster that is a Homeric character, so he will never die. He'll just get wounded. He has another half-brother, I thought, in here. I mean, in the... okay, I thought another one of these said half-brother. I just know these guys are also Homeric characters. So I find that it's pretty cool that you can just jump a archer to kind of run alongside you as a defender, and it kind of fits the overall character and lore of Ajax too, so I found that particularly cool. But if you want to be a kind of a singular powerhouse, it's really more of a juggernaut that's moving north through all of Greece and taking up everything, then really Ajax is going to be for you. He is definitely more of a diplomatic character with the ability to really sway diplomacy in a lot of ways, but I think that you'll also find a lot of these mechanics have a direct parallel when we're talking about Diomedes, but in a different way. So let's pivot over to the other Danaan in Diomedes. Legendary hero Diomedes was renowned as one of the deadliest and most cunning military commanders to enter the fray against Troy, and that is very true in the actual context of the game and his combat ability. So as a result, he is a fighter hero, and he has access to the defender, the fighter, and the warlord heroes, but not the archer. And he gets two unique mechanics in Argos' Finest and Master Strategist. And Argos' Finest is really cool here. It really dips into the lore behind him being an epigoni, which are these renowned strategos, right? These members of the sons of the 7 against Thebes, these Argive heroes. So it's a really fun mechanic. We'll dive into that in just a second. And Master Strategist as well. But he gets 4 unique faction units in the renowned Axemen, the Argive Swordmasters, which also have a dual purpose in that they can throw javelins as well, the Heroic Axe Runners, and then lastly the Knight Runners. So let's jump into the campaign and take a look at these guys. Starting just south of Ajax, Diomedes has a lot of mechanics that are his own, but also somewhat similar to Ajax. So let's take a look at him now. Now, he himself as a combatant is quite strong. He is very, very, very powerful in the actual combat map. He can just rip things up. I think, honestly, as far as Danaans go, next to Achilles, he's one of the strongest combatants. He has a very high amount of damage, a good amount of armor, and a great amount of melee attack and defense. And when you actually take a look at his skills, too, he has Might of Athena here, which gives him a nice 30% bonus to his melee attack. He has just so many ways to really become a monster on the battlefield and destroy the enemy hero in like 2 or 3 seconds. One of his biggest skills, though, is Drill Expert. And I think he actually gets another skill later down the line. Yeah, Band of Heroes too. But Drill Expert here allows him to increase the recruitment rank of all new units. And then the other one, Band of Heroes, which we just crossed to go over again, allows him to increase the morale, upkeep cost reduction of Paragon units. And that's important. You know, there's other things in here that are also going to help with your Paragon units further down the way. But when it comes to Diomedes, as a difference to Ajax, he's about recruiting units versus Ajax, who is about recruiting heroes. He has this ability here called Argos' Finest, where he gets to leverage the training ability of the strategos. These strategos are, again, these famed generals of the Argive lore, and they kind of go on to start the Second Theban War, so on and so forth. But these strategos allow you to select any normal unit, and when I say normal, it just means no mythological unit. So for example here, just this spearman, I can then select one of these two, like Polydoros here, to be his tutor, to train these guys. And it will take 5 turns for them to train the unit, and then I can actually recruit the unit instantaneously, much like a Regiment of Renown or other Paragon style units in other Total Wars. Or I can do this one right here. But what this gives this unit, for example, is battlefield healing, 30% morale, and then 25% bonus to weapon damage. So if I click this, it says Polydoros is the strategos who will train this unit to create the Paragon. And if I hover over, it then shows me the bonuses directly applied to the unit card. 27 morale, 3 melee attack, 7 melee defense. And those are coming because it's a rank 2 unit now, and then 30 damage, as well as battlefield healing. Battlefield healing, if you're unaware of what that is when it comes to Troy, is it is simply a regeneration effect. The unit will constantly regenerate its health as long as it's not in combat. But these kind of are all over the map, and some of them are different, you know, or well, all of them are different, and some of them are for specific styles of unit. Like, hey, this guy's going to give flanking defense improvement, or and 60% improvement to melee defense, or this one right here might be really good if you want a really strong cavalry style unit, going to increase combat speed, charge bonus by 60%, and strong vigor attribute. Or maybe this guy right here who's going to give 40% weapon damage and 30% armor, as well as giving flanking attack improvement, or causes fear and addition to the melee attack. So plenty of different choices to choose from. And you simply click this button and it zooms into where that Strategos is. This one, for example, is right here, but it's the same icon. I know there's one right over here that you see in Ajax's campaign, that little paragon icon. And all you have to do is take ownership of the settlement, and then that Strategos will join your faction, and you can then use them to recruit your units. So that's why trying to stack up bonuses for your unit recruitment is very key when it comes to Diomedes, as well as trying to take advantage of his specific skills that give bonuses to paragons. And of course, because of his victory conditions, you're going to need to actually have those paragons in your army. You need 7 total paragons for the Homeric victory, and you also have to have a lot of favor towards Athena. So kind of keep those things in mind as you're playing the game. But the other ability here is Master Strategist. And the way that this works is it essentially gives you objectives for every faction that you're fighting against. And this will also include the expedition factions that were added with Troy's Mythos DLC. So the expedition factions that will randomly spawn around the map and say, hey, this guy is over here. He has a 5, 10, 15, 20 person army. Go destroy him and you'll get access to a unit. Well, this will also give you objectives. So it's a great way to actually farm dominance. But dominance can be gained through these objectives right here. You know, conquer the capital, raise this settlement, kill this hero, defeat this faction leader, and you can click these buttons to go to the specific one it's referring to. So, for example, Corinth here. But what this does is, dominance has got 3 levels: insufficient, dominance, and maximum dominance. And what it essentially allows you to do is use dominance like a currency in the actual diplomacy portion of the game. So you use, I'll show it in just a second, you'll use it and you'll be able to force, say, maybe a military alliance or a specific barter agreement, or maybe a single barter agreement, whatever it is. Now, you can't do it though for breaking alliances or joining wars. That's the only difference. But the last one here is maximum dominance, which allows you to essentially use dominance to force a confederation. So let me show you this in the actual diplomacy screen. And the only difference, you won't get more dominance usage if you're at maximum. It just allows you to use dominance for confederation. Let's just click Mycenae because I know I can't actually do anything. And let's click military alliance. Well, you see this new button right here? Dominance. Spend dominance to influence the other side. Increase the likelihood of success of a deal by 25. So basically right now I see it's at 28.4. Normally this would probably be pretty hard to achieve. Well, I can click dominance. It now makes it so I'm 3.4 away from success, and then I can just sweeten the pot with some money, some stone, whatever it is. So dominance is a way to control the kind of political theater in a way that is different from Ajax. Ajax is all about trying to quell or avenge aggression or defense, right? Like he's trying to jump to someone's aid, end a war, or shore up the defenses of another combatant. You, on the other hand, are trying to force your hand in the way that you want. Diomedes is about creating what he wants, not helping out other people. So if it involves him like, hey, I'm going to take your resources by doing this barter agreement, he'll use dominance to ensure that that happens. So because, you know, someone might say, well, I'm not going to take this as blown out of proportion. You're getting way more than I am from this barter agreement. Well, dominance just gave me a plus 25 to that, so I'm going to make it happen. So what I will say though about Diomedes as opposed to Ajax, Diomedes is a lot more difficult. You do start off with Mycenae right on your heel over here on your right, and they're not necessarily going to be a combatant of yours, but they will be another power vacuum. They'll start to suck up a lot of the territory over here, and that will be a bit of a thorn in your side because you have a lot of opposition over here that you can fight and expand into. And you'll find with Diomedes that he will find himself in a lot of wars quickly. And you have to really take advantage of the fact that you can push a lot of really strong units onto the table, more so than the opponent. Because you can basically take your current tech tree and make it stronger using the Strategos. So Diomedes is different than Ajax, a little bit more dynamic, I would argue, but he is a lot more difficult. And as a result, you have to really be aggressive and use the fact that he himself, I keep saying he himself, that's poor, that's terrible grammar, but that Diomedes as an actual combatant is very strong, and he can make very, very strong units. So you have to take advantage of that in a way that Ajax can kind of slowly grind on, right? That kind of slow growing force in the north. You have to be very aggressive in expanding your territory. So if you want to play an aggressive campaign with really cool custom units based off of the kind of strengths that you have in mind, then Diomedes will be the one for you. And at that, it brings our video here to a close, guys. So if you have any questions about Ajax or Diomedes, go ahead and let me know in the comment section below. Do you want to be the kind of aggressive Argive son of Argos, pushing out the frontiers and trying to rekindle the Second Theban War in your epic quest? Or do you want to be the slow grinding mountain, right? The protector of the Achaeans in Ajax? You have a lot of decisions. And we didn't really go into a lot of the victory stuff with Ajax or things that have a lot of synergy, because in all honesty, he doesn't have the synergies that Diomedes has because he doesn't need to rely on them. I feel like Diomedes needs to rely on the fact that he has to bolster his Paragon units or have high recruitment rank, so on and so forth. Whereas Ajax, he does again have some of those synergies, but they're just not as present. And it's really more about being this force that can move in whatever direction you want to, but just at a slower, more controlled rate. So as always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. If you want to watch my coverage of the Danaans, the Trojans, you can find that linked at the end of this video as always. But the Amazonian coverage is coming out tomorrow, as well as plenty more Total War Troy Saga coverage coming out all throughout this week leading up to the launch on September 2nd. But as always, thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one and take care.